Hello, and welcome to the WWIA podcast. We're honored to have you join us in our mission to bring honor, connection, and healing to America's combat-wounded Purple Heart heroes. If this is your first time listening to this podcast, we welcome you. If you're a returning listener, thanks for coming back. Please be sure to tell others about our podcast and leave us a review if you're enjoying what you're hearing. On the latest episode of the WWIA podcast, WWIA Founder and CEO John McDaniel welcomes Mr. Eric Martinez. Eric is the owner and CEO for Old Dogs New Tricks, LLC, a product development and marketing company that owns a portfolio of consumer packaged goods and products that include energy drinks, energy shots and powders under the Pursuit Energy brand, ready-to-drink and packaged coffee, beef and game jerky, and dog treats, all sold under the Pursuit brand. Before becoming an entrepreneur, Eric worked in a private equity firm as a managing director with oversight over certain portfolio companies. During his career, Eric held senior executive positions in various privately held and private equity-owned companies, including ProCare Automotive Service Solutions, Burnett USA, Outboard Marine Corporation, and Favorite Brands International. Early in his career, he held executive and management positions within publicly held companies, including IMC Global, General Electric as part of GE Plastics, Amoco Corporation, and Ernst Young. Eric earned a Master's of Management from Kellogg Graduate School of Management and a BBA with a concentration in accounting from the University of Notre Dame. He's a CPA who currently resides in Wisconsin with his wife Becky and two healers, Harley and Buell. Let's jump right into the conversation with John and Eric now.
Hi, I'm John McDaniel, founder and CEO of the Wounded Warriors in Action Foundation, and this is our podcast, Honor, Connect, and Heal. You know, I just want to thank everybody for tuning in. I'm told through the through my team here that the podcasts we're doing are being well received, and I just wanted to say thanks to everybody who's listening out there. And I also wanted to mention that today, with us, here we are in December. I don't know what time you're going to be listening to this, but Christmas is coming around the corner. And I've got with us a very special guest who's an amazing supporter for the foundation. His name is Eric Martinez. And Eric is the owner and CEO of Pursuit Energy, which is a national lifestyle brand. And they've got some amazing products, and I've sampled them, and we've distributed them to our heroes. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Welcome to the program, Eric.
Thank you, John. I appreciate the time, and I'm a little humbled that we're doing this on Pearl Harbor Day. So I hope I can really live up to the honor and the importance of today.
It is an important day, isn't it?
Absolutely.
You know, this morning, I get this little history feed. I appreciate you mentioning Pearl Harbor Day, but, you know, I get this little feed to my email every day, and it's a history on this day in history. It's just interesting. You know, this morning I was reading about Pearl Harbor, and you know, of course, I'm a student of history and certainly of conflict, given my background. And one of the things I did not know is that the radar operators, they picked up at Pearl Harbor. Okay, it was a surprise attack. Everybody knows that. But they picked up, believe it or not, you may know this, but they picked up on radar a large mass formation of aircraft heading towards the island, but they didn't do anything. Okay, they didn't alert anybody about it because they were expecting friendly forces in mass, to be inbound to land there at Pearl Harbor or in the islands. So they didn't alert anybody. Wasn't that it was a complete failure? It's just that this is who we expect coming in, and it wasn't. It was the Japanese. And so anyway, I didn't know that. I love learning things that I previously didn't know. But we're not here to talk about Pearl Harbor. We're here to talk about Pursuit Energy.
Yes.
So let's do that. Let's talk about Pursuit Energy. Tell us about your brand and tell us about what you're doing in this space.
Well, we are a consumer packaged good company. We're focused. Our flagship is an energy drink. A lot of folks that I've talked to think I'm crazy to try to compete with the big guys like Monster, Red Bull,
Never heard of
Rockstar.
them. Never
Right,
heard of them.
exactly. They're not in this space, even though they dominate and have about 65% of the market share. But we started looking back about 6 years ago. I got introduced to someone who was starting this brand and spoke to me about the fact that the whole outdoor industry and specifically kind of the hunting demographic was an underserved consumer when it came to consumer packaged goods. And what I mean by that is mostly beverages and snacks.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this concept about branding something. And back then, the initial entry point was with Mossy Oak to have a co-branded product with Mossy Oak, which is kind of the
Bill
900
Sugg.
pound. Yeah, that whole
I've
Toxie
chatted
Haze.
him
You,
up a
you
few
know,
times.
you know the guys, Toxie Haze, that whole group. And I got very interested and then became the owner of the business because I loved it and I felt like I had a good way to promote it. So we are what we consider ourselves as far as how we communicate to our consumers. We're America's hunting lifestyle brand. And I took that concept of an energy drink. And if you know anything about that market, it's really matured. Those brands that I talked about, like Monster, Red Bull, Rockstar, the sub-segmentation has grown into sports energy. So you have your core energy, your sports energy, and now you have these lifestyle brands that are coming out. You probably know a couple of them. There's NOS, which is looking at National Hot Rod Association. You have Full Throttle, which takes a look at targeting and communicating with motorcycle folks. You have G Fuel that looks at gamers as well as Ghost. And once again, I was very attracted from a business mindset to really focus products on the hunting community. And it's a narrow focus and design, but we're looking to get cohort communities that are really interested in the rugged outdoor lifestyle. So immediately you think about fishing, right? If you hunt, you definitely fish. And then we're starting to get motocross guys. And then I didn't want to be a one-dimensional company. So I've inserted a couple of snacks. So now we've expanded into something natural, right? Coffee, which is a caffeinated beverage. And then extend even further into jerky and dog treats, which are all snacks that really relate to this community, and it's really easy to communicate with them. And I've reached out to a bunch of people and made sure that, in today's world, when you're building a brand, the company doesn't really own the brand, the consumer does. So I've really had an outreach program of engaging folks, and similar to some of the gear companies and the apparel companies, we've created a field staff program to get folks engaged and really speaking about, talking to, and really putting the product into the natural occasion of when people hunt, whether it's pre-hunting activities, hunting activities, fishing activities. And they love the products. I mean, first and foremost, we're all about the USA. So everything is made and sourced in the USA except for the coffee beans. And we don't have products that are in places. I'm a New York City person, and kind of like the Pace salsa commercial. It wouldn't be authentic and credible to have a hunting brand out of New York City. So all our places of manufacture are really relevant to the outdoor space. So our jerky is made out of Bozeman, Montana. Our coffee is roasted in Minnesota, specifically Chaska. And our flavor house for the drinks are out of Malvern, Arkansas. So when people really talk about who we are, it's to the core. We're trying to build this brand from the ground floor up as a USA branded company, everything sourced, manufactured in the USA. And then undergirding kind of our messaging with the hunting community is the fact that we want to do things similar to other brands out in the space, which is support our veterans. I think in today's political environment and what's happening from a business perspective, I wanted to make sure that we're doing our part to make sure that we're employing people in the U.S. and we're supporting some of our greatest heroes, which is those who have served.
Excellent. I gotta tell you, I don't every day. I think for the last, I'm gonna say 40 years at least. When I wake up, I like go to the coffee pot. I mean, back in the day, there's percolators, and there's thousands of ways to get coffee today, right? I mean, you got a little Keurig thing here in the office, these little pucks that I put in. But before I get to the office, I'm doing at my house. I put on a teapot, right? That's every day, whether I'm at Camp Hackett or I'm here, in Apollo Beach. I'm boiling water, and until it whistles, and then I get my little cone filter out, and I put my coffee in it, and I do a pour over. And that's how I do that, because I drink like 2 or 3 cups in the morning, and that's how I like my coffee. And you sent me a care package a couple months ago, and it had 2 different brands of your coffee in it. One was the morning blend, as I recall, and the other was like Mississippi Mud.
Right.
Is that right? Did I get that right?
Breakfast blend, which is our plain vanilla one, and then there's the Mississippi Mud, which is flavored.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I've been sparingly using them because I was trying to stretch it out a little bit and really get to understand what it's what that coffee is all about, and I really enjoy it. And it is at least the morning blend. You got to be a little careful with how much you put in, because that'll get you going, man. That is, you talk about energy. I had a couple of cups of that this morning, and I'm like, I got in the office, and I'm like, I don't even need any more coffee. I'm like, good to go, man. It's like rocket fuel. It's delicious. And I opened this morning just because I knew we were going to be chatting. I did the Mississippi Mud, and I really enjoy that. I think I actually might like that one a little bit more. They're both delicious. And then, of course, the orange. You've got an energy drink. And this is what you've got, a whole line of energy drinks, and you sent me some of those. You even got a zero sugar line of zero sugar, because I try to really watch my intake of sugar. So I appreciate you sending me that. But we took the rest of it up to Camp Hackett, and it disappeared like smoke. The fall, it was gone, man. I mean, everybody drank everything; it was gone. And there's a lot of guys out there. At least, you see, I'm the last generation. I made the cutoff for the baby boomers, so that's where I'm at, right? But a lot of these younger guys, X, Y, Gen, whatever they are, millennials. I don't even know if I'm even saying that right, but folks younger than me, a lot of them aren't drinking coffee. Old school guys like me are drinking coffee, but I was surprised to see guys popping the top on a Pursuit energy drink in the morning before they went out to a hunt. Because if you were given the option, which they were, we have soda. I'm not a soda drinker. Occasionally I might drink a diet soda or something, but but we have that available for them because we've got some great people up there in the North Woods that supply us with all kinds of beverages for the heroes when we're at camp. But they're guys popping the tops on your stuff. In the morning before they're going off on a goose hunt or a deer hunt. And a lot of guys are in that position where they're just not, they don't like, or they don't drink coffee. And I'm like, you don't drink coffee? You were in the Army or the Marine Corps, you don't drink coffee? I mean, what's going on? And it's because of products like yours, they would rather drink a Pursuit Energy than they would drink a cup of coffee. And when you make it available, they'll drink it and they like it. So I just wanted to thank you for that care package and tell you that we certainly enjoyed it. I don't think we got any jerky from you because I would have eaten that. And I don't have a dog anymore, so we didn't get any dog treats. But that's next on my hit list is getting some of your jerky and running that downrange.
Well, John, you know what? Anytime I will send you, I'll restock you up personally, and then we'll make sure we'll get some more stuff up to Camp Hackett to make sure that all the guys that come visit and hunt or just commune, as I'm sure you guys do, you hunt, you do a lot of things, but you probably just have a community to come together and reinforce that brotherhood that you guys have. And we'll send some stuff up there. John, I'm not going to lie to you. I'm in your group. I'm the tail end of the baby boom. That it's always changing, right? That 63, 64, 65. So I consider myself a baby boomer as well. I'm a great studier of business and of kind of behavior. And you're spot on. It's very interesting how the younger generations, they're kind of finicky and they spread their kind of beverage and food occasions into different pockets. The Starbucks and the other folks with the craft brew or craft coffee brews are pretty interesting. I mean, it's not even coffee. Sometimes I think they're just drinking candy. That it's coffee is kind of the base, and then they start putting all this shots of whatever into it.
Yeah.
And I really just wanted to
Foo-foo
speak.
coffee.
Yeah, exactly. It's really candy, and but you're correct. The younger guys, which is a traditional targeted demographic, they just get up in the morning and it's incredible, right? They start drinking 2, 3, 4 cans of 16-ounce energy drinks, and so that's interesting from a proposition standpoint, right? We
Sure.
can enter into this great growing market and hopefully compete for the minds of some of these guys. But what we really found is what you said is, this, John, you are personally a hunter, you're an outdoorsman, you really know that mindset. And everyone that's in hunting, there is no shortage of opinions on what apparel, what gear is the best, Matthews bow versus PSE. And imagine, and you go past that, like which is the best camo? Is it Realtree, Mossy Oak, Cryptek, Osseo? You go Sitka, go down the list, and depending on how much you want to pay, you're a fan of that camo. And what we really like about this targeted audience, and I tell people this, is I wasn't a hunter. I'm an outdoors athlete, if you will, and I go out and do a lot of motorcycle riding, skiing, you name it. I do that stuff. And used to be a boater. And I love these communities. And what was really nice about this community is they embrace outsiders pretty quickly and have introduced me to bow fishing, to bow hunting, to rifle hunting.
Yeah.
And when I introduced the product, that's what's attractive, right? If we really they're very discriminating and they want high quality products. And I think you've kind of underscored what we try to do with like the coffee. It's small batch roasted. So when we compare it to the larger guys, the fine tuning of the flavoring and the fact that we don't have high acidity makes that product real good. The jerky is direct USA cattle and beef. It's not a big meat processor that makes it. They make it specifically for us because there's a type of jerky, which is called knotted jerky up in the Pacific Northwest that they traditionally do. I had them do more of a tenderized jerky because folks across the nation really like an easier chew, if you will. And then with regard to the energy drinks, there's a ton of guys in our space that love it, but there's no life. You grab a Monster. Monster doesn't really represent hunting or the outdoor space. And we've changed that. And I think between the community, which has been very embracing to me personally, which I'm excited about, and the fact that we can deliver a product that meets their needs, and they really want it, right? Like you said, the younger guys want it.
Yeah.
And what's nice too is that the feedback that we've gotten from trade shows is when you get past that 18 to 35 targeted range, and I call it some of the guys that are older, 44, 50, not only are health conscious, but they're kind of brand conscious. They feel like they're aging out of a Monster. It doesn't look too cool to be drinking a Monster and you're 50. So we kind of meet that particular personality and say, hey, here's a brand that you can drink that you don't have to worry about age. And the fact that we have the zeros really accommodates not only guys that are sugar sensitive, but also that are pre-diabetic that we see. And so I feel good about not only having a business that I think has a quality product that tastes really good. I think competitively on a taste standpoint, we mask the bitterness that traditionally comes with energy drinks, and also with the sucralose, which is the sweetener, the artificial sweetener that's used. It doesn't taste, I don't think, I'll ask you, but I think the zero sugar products really don't taste like zero sugar or diet products. And we've done a great job of building that community. So we're kind of more community first, and then I'll engage those guys and bring them more products that they want. And then I get the benefit of their high loyalty once we get past that they truly like the product. And this community aspect of it, I'll go back to the field staff, the community aspect of it is such a beneficial part for us as an early stage business, because the way we market today is through the folks that you've talked about at Camp Hackett, that once they try it, the best marketing is not a commercial or a radio ad or postings. It's really word of mouth in our community. And there is no better group of folks to have backing your product than the hunting, fishing community and veterans. Those guys are high powered, they're very passionate, and they probably know how to promote it better than the company.
Yeah, and they're loyal. You know, I mean, that's the other thing is, I wouldn't still be doing this, to be honest with you. That being serving, combat wounded, almost 20 years after retiring. I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't, to be honest with you, if it wasn't for the loyalty that I see on a daily basis, that brand loyalty or loyalty to me, loyalty to the foundation. I think it's the most underrated character value on the planet, quite frankly. And so I am very, very dialed into the idea of loyalty, loyalty to, this country, loyalty to, each other, loyalty amongst veterans, et cetera. That to me, and of course you could talk about brand loyalty too. I mean, I think that fits in there, certainly as well. But it's just a very strong and powerful force. Getting back to what you mentioned, on this idea of, choice, right? And people make decisions every day, hundreds of them. What am I going to wear? What am I going to drink? What am I going to do when I get up? What am I going to do when I get to work? And so, one of the things you look at, this idea of trying something for the first time that you've never, like your brand, they Pursuit Energy, trying your coffee, trying one of your energy drinks, trying some of your jerky. Once somebody get, and you like it, whatever it is, you got, hey, I identify with this thing, whatever it is, and I'm loyal to it once I begin to, enjoy it, because it makes my life better. I just, I enjoy this. I enjoy this thing. And oh, by the way, we're very tribal. And if you're in my tribe, I want to be in your, I consider what you're doing as part of, if you're in my tribe and you're doing something, in this case, you've got this, energy company, and you've been supporting the foundation and liking the things that we do, and delivering your products to us and all of this, to me, that's an expression of loyalty. And I genuinely, appreciate it. And, we see that a lot with our heroes too. Once they have been on one of our events, they typically want to, go again. They just had a great experience. And, the funny thing about, this idea of choice, when you were in the military, in the Army, or the Marine Corps, you didn't have a lot of choice. You really didn't.
Right.
You got the camouflage that they gave you. You got the food that they fed you. When you get out of the military and you take off your uniform, and now, I remember, when I got back from my first, deployment, my first, combat deployment, I remember coming home, and I was single. I was a single guy, so when I came home, I went to I came home to, Leesville, Louisiana is where I came home to. It was not my home. My home was Wisconsin, but I was on active duty. But I remember I was living in a house with like 4 other dudes, all lieutenants, at the time. And I remember coming home and I just looked around the house and I thought to myself, I can actually go to that refrigerator over there and open it up and just choose whatever I want to choose, right? The freedom of choice. Right. And that's the thing. When you get out of the service, you're like, wow, all these choices I have. I get to choose, what kind of, what kind of camouflage I'm going to wear, what kind of bow I'm going to hunt with, what weapon systems I'm going to use, who am I going to hang out with, and all that. And And so it's good, it's good. And we really do appreciate all that you're doing to help our veterans and the foundation. You mentioned earlier something about motocross and being into motocross. I understand that Brett Strelo, who is a veteran himself and a motocross racer, I understand you guys are hooked up with him, right?
Yeah, it's funny. It's we'll talk about more about that loyalty, and I think the foundational piece of that loyalty is really the connection through service, right? I think if you do things for others, right, with authenticity, that's where loyalty comes back and repays itself. And I think too many companies, which is, it's great what you talked about with regard to you're in the service, it's there's a command system and hierarchy that's there. Mm-hmm. You don't have a lot of choices, and you come out, and then now you have these freedoms, and with those freedoms are responsibilities. And then you have on the other side, from a commercial aspect, you have people that want to exploit certain things, but they don't really have the true authentic expression of really trying to serve. They're just trying to sell a product, and they'll try to randomly, go ahead and support something to not only pull at your heartstrings, but pull at your purse strings, right? And what's interesting is when I first started this journey with Pursuit about 6 years ago, I would talk about it, and people would listen and kind of test, whether it's at a trade show or one-on-one, they'd kind of test if I'm serious about the what I feel about the service that I want Pursuit to be a part of. And my success with connecting with WWIA and with Brett Strelo to bring it full circle around has been kind of a random walk. Brett Strelo was just kind of he needs sponsors, as you know. Anyone who's in the professional world, whether you're doing NASCAR, you're doing PBR, you're doing motocross, you need sponsors to help you, purchase your
tires,
equipment,
put tires on your bike,
and entry fees, etc. And don't ask me why, but through the new world of Instagram, he reached out to me, and he happens to be part-time bow hunter. He's a father, he's a construction worker, and he's also a pro motocross racer. So at first, it didn't intuitively, in my mind, as I'm targeting and designing a product for the hunting world, didn't intuitively occur to me that, hey, other than the fact that we were connected and the fact that he had a veteran cause, I was like, okay, let me hear your story. And we had a chat, and it was really compelling. He does something that's called two-wheel therapy, where he takes veterans who are thinking about suicide or really concerned about their health and safety, and he brings them on as honorary pit crew guys. He teaches them what they have to do at a particular race. He suits them up at every race, and then to the extent that they want to move forward and even participate, he will train them on motocross. He'll get them a bike. He'll do this stuff. So in my mind, I started thinking about, wow, that kind of fits in with what I want to do, which is I don't want to be this kind of commercial business person that's just giving money. Not that these charities are bad, but it's kind of too easy to say, okay, we give $1,000 to Tunnels of Towers, we give $1,000 to Wounded Warriors. Yeah, we support veterans. I told people that I'm always looking for veterans who help veterans. They have their charities, because no one knows, in my mind, no one knows how to serve and support veterans than other veterans. And so we were pretty excited about what Brett Strelo's story was, and then the fact that he said, I could get you on motocross. And he understood our position as an early stage business, and we've started that journey. We're on our second year. He's the one that extended our relationship into the motocross world with Veteran MX. So we got probably 4 or 5 amateur and pro folks that are part of Veteran MX that support us and put our decals, they have these graphic kits for the motocross bikes, and for free. In NASCAR, you pay millions to be on a small panel, and for free, these guys have taken our logo and say, these guys support veterans. And I tell you, It's pretty exciting. And that kind of loyalty where they just send us product, we're going to be at the race, we're going to hand out your product, we're going to promote the product. And it's gone a long way to be very helpful in increasing the awareness of the brand in a different venue and still speaks to that crowd. And then I talk about you and we still have to actually do an official press release about our relationship. And then I really want to, once we start cooking and getting our product in brick and mortar retail, is start really getting our partnership where we're funding Wounded Warriors in Action. And that was a random walk, right? David, I was posting something about a Veterans Day or something, and there was a I had repurposed the post. It's like the funniest story in the world. How did John and Eric get connected? Yeah. It's like I reposted or repurposed and posted something about a particular Veterans Day, like I always do, and David saw a typo. And he was, I don't know why he was following the page, but he called, he says, "Hey, I'd like to help you out. I just want you to know that your post has a typo." And I said, "Oh my God." I said, that's bad. And I said, I'm not really a guy that uses, Adobe Acrobat or whatever. He said, "I'll fix it for you." And he did fix it. And then we started having a conversation. And then he said, "You know what? I kind of like your brand. I like what you're doing." And he really told me about the core of what you do, which is taking the Purple Heart recipients out on these missions that you call the hunts. And I started saying, wait a minute. I've been looking for well-established charity that really supports the folks that I can't do. Like, I don't have an expertise in helping veterans. And when I read your charter and the complete mission and then met you, John, on the call, not only were you kind enough to engage and have a conversation with a small business like ours, but it reinforced the intersection of where we wanted to be, which is be with hunting group and also support veterans. And what not a better way to have a charity that's led by a veteran that takes Purple Heart recipients out on hunts. That was like the perfect thing. And that was not, John, that wasn't planned, right? I didn't call you.
Right.
That was just a random walk and being blessed by David, taking the time to kind of reach out just to correct a typo. And I think my hopes is as we grow as a brand, once again, it circles back to my point that if we could be of service directly or indirectly by connecting with organizations and charities like yours that make a difference in the hunting community or directly with our veterans, and that has the success that you guys have had with veterans, not only does that help us for business, but I feel good, and I think our community surrounded by our brand feels good that we're actually doing the work that we should do in support of our veterans.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, David's like that, I mean, thank God he found your typo, right? But he mentioned to me that he mentioned it to me, and I said, yeah, just develop that a little bit, see where it goes, and next thing you know, you and I were chatting on the phone. So I certainly appreciate it, and we're doing what we can to support you as you support us, and we want to be as successful, or we want you to be as successful as you want to be. And on that topic, I mean, just give us some insight into your vision. Like, my vision, I wrote a thing for 2025, Once Upon a Time, and that I wrote that almost 10 years ago. Like, where do you want to be in 2025? And so, I wrote that back in like 2015, I think. And, I know what's in it. I mean, I wrote it. I don't need to go back and look at it. But it's funny, how you sort of chart where you think you want to be or where you want to go strategically. The Army was really good about doing that. Vision 2025. I remember. As we turned the corner in the year 2000, the Army was publishing. It's Vision 2025, and I'm like 2025. I thought, my goodness, it'll be the Jetsons. By that time. And I actually read it. I read every vision that came out. Every 5 years or so, the Army published another vision, and I always just thought it was really interesting because it forces people to think deeply into time and space and go, really, where do I want to be? And not me personally. You could do that for yourself. I think that's a healthy exercise. But for an organization, I think it's important to, that the leaders or the leader looks at it and says, okay, this is where I want to be in the year 2025, or this is where I want to be in the year 2050, as an organization. Because, by charting that or giving, allusion to that or illuminating those ideas, gives employees and anybody who's interested in your enterprise, where's this guy or where's this gal think they want to be, or where are they going? Are they, do they really have a vision for the future? And so, with that said, just curious, you mentioned at the start of the program, where you guys are in the grand scheme of things against the, those that have, the lion's share of the market set. But, what are your thoughts on the future of Pursuit Energy and where you want to be, 5, 10, 15 years from now?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think vision, this is back in the day in the mid to late 80s that companies really started thinking about mission, vision, values, right? Really trying to integrate those things. And I don't even know if that's still something that's hot. But I think you're right. I think framing where you'd like to be at least gives you a roadmap and allows you to go from a high level vision to what are the steps and milestones that you need to achieve to get there, and always knowing that at some point markets change, things deviate, so you need to be prepared for that. But I think our plan is pretty simple, and it's really driven first by the structure of the business, which is we can't do good and serve our community until we grow. So I would say the first couple of years where we're trying to do is build awareness in the brand, get traction, and really get placement into traditional brick and mortar retail, which I don't know if you know how difficult that is, but it is very costly and difficult to get placement into the, you name it, the Circle Ks, the 7-Elevens and stuff like that. But we're in that grind right now, and our tremendous focus and capital intensity is to get there. But once we get, what I would say is when we get a little bit above water with regard to getting great placement, great sales, and really driving what traditionally happens in a business, especially for the beverage space and the snack space, then really it's to continue to build and reinforce what we want to do, which has kind of two legs outside of the business piece, some of which reinforces kind of the brand and should accelerate sales, but really what that idea of service is, which is twofold. One is, this in the hunting space, it has not been growing in recent years, and probably the growing part of it has been the entry of female hunters. So that's been a growing sub portion of the group. But I think what's really been lost is the generational hunting, where granddad took grandson, dad took son. And I think those are not only good for the hunting, the passionate hunting group, but it's also good about family values, like really reconnecting in this world where everyone is walking in the street, driving a car, and perpetually looking down and texting or looking at Instagram. We need to get away from that. We need to get away from PS2s or PS5s or whatever the new game is at home. We really need to get people to commune together, especially families. And I want to be supportive of that. So with regard to hunting, fishing, whatever comes out, whatever builds a community that not only brings men and women together, which we need, to engage socially, which helps us spiritually as well. I want things that will provide occasions where families can share those activities together and increase the bond that they have. So we look for things like, what would be a good one, like field to fork programs that are supported by DNRs by state, to make sure that we're introducing new people into the hunting environment, get them away from this fear of what's hunting and it's killing Bambi, and really it's kind of a core innate thing that the human race had to do, right? It had to hunt for food. It had to harvest, vegetables and grains to make other foods like bread and be healthy. And no matter what Bill Gates will say about eating crickets, I'm not there. I think we need to eat meat, and we need to eat, vegetables, and we'll be very healthy. It's really supported us throughout our history as humans. So I really want to reinforce those things. Anything that creates opportunities to bring in the new population of next hunters. What we're actually seeing, we're seeing an interest, and I think it's turning. We're seeing an interest from urban centers where, because people want this free range or meats that are not processed and cattle that are given
GMO, I
steroids,
don't even know
right? All that stuff. Now people are going like, oh my God, maybe if I go hunting,
it's
I'll
natural
get better.
protein.
Yeah. So now I'm also, Pursuit will have a strong service-minded support system that really helps to bring in new people and support families so that they could take their family. And I love posting, if you look at our Instagram and Facebook, especially when we have women hunters, they take their kids out hunting.
Yeah.
They teach them how to field dress at an early stage. They get them so that they're not scared about this whole process, and really be respectful, as you know, respectful for our environment. And they're great conservationists, right? They really do want to manage this, and so we can have better hunting for future generations. So we want to be very supportive of that. And then supportive of veterans. And that's something, John, where I think I'd lean on you as our relationship grows. But the first extension is to something natural, which is our brands really help with veterans are in the hunting and fishing space. So that's kind of a natural. But I think to the extent that we can do more, I would probably lean on you to say, what more can we do, and what are the areas of support that veterans truly need, whether it's homelessness or mental health or something, right? To make sure that we pay back to the community that supported this country and in many regards gave a lot of stuff up, personal things up, even their bodies for us. So I think those are things that I want to do. And then the last thing is, as we grow, your centerpiece, and I don't want to speak for WWIA, but I think the centerpiece of Camp Hackett as a place to have a community, to bring people together, to do activities, but also to share stories and really build that brotherhood and sisterhood, right? I think we would like to have something similar, like maybe a Camp Pursuit, and where people can come and not only, invite some of our strategic partners to come and talk about business and have presentations, but also to bring people, all types of folks, to come and hunt and come and just commune and engage for a little bit, whether it's we give away, a 3-day hunt or to a family or something. I think that would be nice to invest in just a couple of acres where people can hunt. You know what's happening out there. Less and less private land is available for hunting, and the number of tags out there continues to reduce. So the hunters have the challenges from state policies. But if I can also have a destination for the brand that really reinforces and serves folks, both the field staff, people that engage with the brand, and even share it with you, John, with some of your folks, that if there's hunting that we could do on our property and we can make that available to charities that could bring folks. It's WWIA not only does the hunting piece, you do fishing. And I've had a lot of people call me up where up in Grand Rapids, a bunch of boating captains love to take veterans out on fishing trips, and they look for sponsors, and I'm a big sponsor of that. It's not under a charity, but it's guys that know me and call me up, connections that I've made with other pro staffers at Mossy Oak and Realtree, and they make me aware of these things. So that's what we want to be, and we want to make sure that we dedicate that. But it really is, there is the component that's just straight business. I can't lie about that. Without the profits, we can't do service. And we are going to make sure that we build up the business, be a profitable company, so that we can really then start increasing the dollars that'll push to people that can do the service. We either do it directly through a Camp Pursuit, but we're going to have to do it with charities like yours that really identify the folks that really should benefit from some kind of support and service that we could provide.
Yeah. Well, you touched on something that we're really beginning to focus on more so, and just the language anyway is, I think, important. I don't think we really described it this way until here recently. But this idea of these protective factors, these are protective factors. What is the foundation doing? Honor, connect, heal. There's lots of ways describing what we do and lots of layers regarding what we do, and the benefits thereof or therein. It just depends on who you talk to. But this idea recently surfaced is coming around again and again is this idea of these protective factors, things that protect against, this plight of suicide, which is, so we're losing, according to the Veterans Administration, something like, 20 veterans a day to suicide, and that's just unacceptable. It blows my mind. During the course of our conversation, statistically speaking, a veteran's already taken their life. And we need to be doing something about that. And the foundation has been doing something about that, and you're supporting that. And that's there. I think those that are really into the psychology of it all, and trying to describe or make meaning out of something that's inherently complex. They're using this term protective factors. And I just scribbled a few things down on a piece of paper while you were chatting, and if you say, well, you're taking hunting and fishing, well, what does that have to do with a protective factor? Well, that's really just, the thing we're doing. But what's happening behind the scene, as is, we're introducing them to communities that care and people that genuinely care. We care about them as a person. We care about what they did for our country while they were wearing a uniform, and some of them are still wearing a uniform, But this idea of connecting them with each other, connecting them with the outdoors, connecting them with people and communities who care, this reinstilling a sense of purpose, in meaning in their life. What I did was valued, and these people here that I don't even know, I just rocked up to this Northwoods, Wisconsin, some guy named Jake picked me up in this big truck, and we traveled an hour to get to camp, and here they are out in the middle of nowhere. What the heck's going on here? There's no Wi-Fi, there's no internet. Your cell phone works some of the time, but there's a lot of trust, that goes into getting on a plane, if you're a veteran, and especially if you're a combat wounded veteran. For the first few years, we experienced a lot of dropouts. And guys that just were like, I'm not, get right up to the point where it's time to get on the plane. They're like, I'm not doing this, and then they just check out. You just never hear from them again, or they would just say, hey, they'd come up with some wild, crazy excuse why they didn't get on the plane. I'm like, oh, okay, well, those days are pretty much over for us. We don't see that anymore. And, the further you get away from combat, a lot of these guys, they were, duking it out and, 17, 18 years ago, and at the height of the Iraq, Afghanistan, wars and Operation Enduring, Freedom and all of that. It's been 15, of course, we just pulled out of Afghanistan, of course, that was a 20-year, war, if you will, conflict. But, these protective factors, anytime we can brighten our network, and where people like you and companies like Pursuit are interested in supporting what we're doing, you're adding to the value of what we're doing. So these protective factors are something that are really important, and a lot of it's, a lot of it is subconscious. I think, it's hard to put your finger on it, but here's these people that you don't know that are, planning this detailed operation, they're funding the whole thing. And then you're going to go out and harvest something that you get to eat that's, that you personally harvested, and so you're getting this organic protein in your body. You might be sharpening a skill set or learning a new skill set, hunting or fishing that you never did. Some guys are really experienced in it. Some guys, it's their first time, but at the end of the day, you're going to sit around a fire, in the middle of nowhere, in most cases, and you're going to, in a safe environment, surrounded by like-minded people. We're tribal in nature. You can't say it any other way. And there's tribes within tribes. This hunting community, it's a tribe. But within that hunting community, you got subordinate tribes. Or you got the guys that are, archers, guys that are, rifle guys that are both, and guys that are, love to hunt ducks and turkeys, and all these little, things, sub tribes, if you will, of part of a, a larger community of shared and common interest. And so that, I think that circles back to this idea of being part of something, and when you get out of the military, when you're no longer wearing a uniform, it's a big, scary world out there for a lot of guys. And so to get reconnected, to get re-blued, if you will, get in a safe place where you can, connect again. And get in reset. I hear that a lot. Well, I got, sort of like getting my clock, my internal computer, reset. And,
right.
And we all need that. You don't have to be a veteran to do it. There's a lot of people hey, I was a sportsman before I was a veteran. I can tell you that. I grew up doing this stuff and I loved it. And I just thought, boy, after I got out of the service, I just thought to myself, I surely can't be the only person in the world that thinks this is good for you. And so, here we are 17 years later, doing it in earnest. But it's great when folks like you, reach out to us and say, we want to help, and you are helping, and it means a lot to us. And I want to personally thank you and your staff and everybody that's behind you, helping Pursuit Energy grow. And for all those that are out there in the listening audience, you can go to their website. I've got it open right here. It's pursuitenergy.com. Okay. And I think you can order products there, can't you, Eric?
Yes, you can.
So
everything's available.
Yeah. So, encourage you guys to do that. Put a can of of this wonderful energy drink in your rucksack. Get some of their coffee, buy some of their jerky, and you won't be disappointed. I'm going to lateral it to you, Eric. You got any saved rounds? Anything you would like to chat with folks about before we call it an episode?
No, I think, John, you did a great job covering a lot of stuff as far as not only the products and who Pursuit Energy is, but really allowing me to talk to your audience and let them know really our mission. And I want to reinforce that as the Pursuit is kind of a vehicle. We want to be a successful business. We want to sell products that are meaningful to the target audience, but we also like to be a company that serves. And like I said, I really want to be have Pursuit really be an important and meaningful part of the hunting community, and also with partners like Wounded Warriors in Action and John, and we want to make sure that we do the things that we say we want to do, which is support our veteran community. And I'm humbled, and I truly appreciate, John, that you've said it's a good partnership that we should pursue. And for 2024, I really look forward to expanding that relationship and making it meaningful to you, supporting you not only on Instagram and other social platforms, but also investing in WWIA so you can really do God's work. And I think you have aspirations to make it the last time we talked, you said that you really want to expand it. So we want to be part of that expansion, and we want to work with you and everyone that supports you to make WWIA everything that you want it to be.
I think we're off to a good start, Eric, and we appreciate it and your time, certainly. And wish you and your family and all those in your enterprise very Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and best of luck as we creep our way into 2024, buddy. We look forward to the future.
You got it. Same thing to you and your team. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to everyone, and have a healthy and safe 2024.
Awesome. All right, buddy. I appreciate you, and have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
To learn more about the mission of the Wounded Warriors in Action Foundation and how you can get involved, please visit our website at WWIAF.org or follow our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Thank you for listening to the WWIA podcast and for helping us honor, connect, and heal our combat-wounded Purple Heart heroes through the power of the great outdoors.
If you like what you're listening to here and would like to join our team in our mission to bring healing power and recovery to America's Purple Heart heroes, please become part of our Sponsor a Hero team by clicking on the link in the podcast notes or by going to wwiaf.org/sponsor. That's wwiaf.org/sponsor. Our heroes need you now more than ever. Thank you.